Hi, I'm Ben Buddy Slack, and I'm the founder of the Swan Song Project. The Swan Song Project is a charity that helps people facing the end of their lives to write and record their own original songs. I've started doing a series of interviews with songwriters where I ask them to share one of their songs, tell us a little bit about how they wrote it, share some a tip that might be useful to new songwriters, and also share us a little bit about how music might have helped them deal with the bereavement in the past. This episode features Dave Acari, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, today I'm here with Mr. Dave Acari. Thanks for joining me, Dave. Oh, we're frozen right
Hi,
at the
Ben.
start.
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to chatting to you a bit more. So these interviews are doing three sections. First, Dave's going to play us a song. He's going to tell us a little bit about how he wrote that song. Section 2, he's going to give us a songwriting tip that might be useful for new songwriters, just getting started perhaps. And then section 3, we're going to talk about a song that's meaningful to Dave, relating to bereavement in some way. So I'll pass it over to you, Dave. If you want to introduce your song and take it away whenever you're ready. I'm going to put you on the full screen here. There we go.
Thanks, Ben. This is actually it's quite topical because this is a new song. It was a single that came out on Friday there, so it's only about a week old. So it's called "Stick to Your Guns," and I'll play it, and then I'll tell you a little bit about it afterwards. I've been told that you're wildly bold, smoky and sweet, the kind I like to meet. Oh, everybody wants to spend time with you. Oh, everybody wants to spend time with you. Come on. Something new. Hear the moan and you stand alone. Oh, you stick to your guns and you keep it real. Oh, you stick to your guns and you keep it real. All for you, but not for you. Play the blues and you break the rules. You're an independent spirit, mind of your own. You're an independent spirit, a mind of your own. Way. Take your turn and it's on your terms. Oh, I like your style, how it makes me feel. Oh, I like your style, how it makes me feel. Oh, I like your style, how it makes me feel. Stick to your guns.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Dave.
Oh, man.
Great stuff. Stick to your guns. So what can you tell us about writing that one?
Well, although I for 10, 15 years or more, I've been making my living as a songwriter and touring, but I'm not hugely prolific. So I don't want to say I struggle to write songs, but it's definitely, I feel that the songs usually just almost fall out the sky, or it's a long, slow process. And my better songs, I feel, are the ones that just almost come really quickly. If it's something that I feel I need to labour with, so I've maybe got an idea, but it's not working, but I'm determined to use the idea. So I keep pushing and pushing and pushing, but it becomes like pushing a square peg in a round hole. And occasionally these songs kind of develop and work a lot of the time they end up in the bin, but we can talk about that in a minute. But this song, Stick to Your Guns, which is the new single, it's kind of a long story. There's two kind of things fed into the idea. One was that I worked for quite a long time, or for a few years anyway, with our local distillery here in East Loch Lomond, a company called Glengoyne. And there's never really been any sponsorship or anything with them, but we've worked together, and they're keen to get my audience, and I was keen to get their audience a little bit. And so they helped me out, I helped them out a bit in various ways. And originally they wanted to pair me up with their sister company called Smokehead. But, I was thinking, I really like Glengoyne whiskey. I'm going to stick with this. So I stuck with that. Trying to make a long story even longer. They asked a few years ago, I've got a song called Whiskey in My Blood, that when I wrote it, I kind of, at the back of my head, I thought, it'd be nice if a whiskey company liked this. Of course, nothing ever happened. But when the relationship started with Glengoyne, they liked it. And so they asked me for World Music Day a couple of years ago to go to the distillery and do a video of the song, and they would put it out. But the corporate folks didn't like it because it doesn't really promote sensible drinking. So I thought, okay, we still put out the video and everything, and it was all fun. We've continued to work together. The following year, I wrote a song called Whiskey Trail, which subliminally told the story of the distillery of Glengoyne. Didn't mention Glengoyne. It's called Whiskey Trail, but apart from that, it was just to try and capture their brand values and the essence of their independence and what have you. That worked a treat. Everybody loved that. And then last year, when National were launching the signature guitar, I went to Glengoyne and said, right, I think this would be a good PR opportunity. And they kind of said, well, we're thinking about this again. Remember we mentioned our sister company, Smokehead? We think they'd be a much better fit for you. So I'm like, okay, let me take a look at this crowd. And I check out the Smokehead stuff, and everything is much more aligned to me and my own brand than Glengoyne ever was, because it's kind of quite smooth and sophisticated and nice and well-mannered, and Smokehead's all like, it's all about independence, like it or lump it. And all these brand values are almost exactly mirrored with my own approach to my music and my show and my songwriting and everything. So I kind of thought, we did various little initiatives together, taking some Smokehead to the USA, letting people try it. Everybody's loving it. We're getting lots of good traction for them, and vice versa for me. Their US distributor was really interested and supportive, and they were putting stuff behind my event ads and stuff. And I thought, right, okay, it'd be quite nice to do a song like the Whiskey Trail song for Glengoyne. If I could come up with a song really that kind of reflected Smokehead sensibilities in a way, but doesn't mention Smokehead, doesn't even mention whiskey, but is kind of inspired by the underlying, ethics and brand values and thoughts and personality behind it. So the song I started messing about. My songwriting always starts off, or 99.9% starts off with the guitar. So I'll pick up the guitar and I'll mess about until I come up with a random riff or hook that I think doesn't sound like anybody else, or too much like anybody else, and doesn't sound too much like anything else I've done before. Problem is that I play mostly open tunes. I do some regular guitar stuff and banjo stuff, but the majority of my stuff's open G or open D. So, it's a bit like trying to write a book and you only know 3 words, and then trying to write another book with the same 3 words. But invariably, there's so many ways to skin a cat that, you take tempo and feel and stuff. And, these 3 or 4 words, or in my case, 1 or 2 or maybe 3 chords if I'm adventurous, usually played with 1 finger. You find a way of kind of making it come out a little bit differently, whether it's the way you hit it, whether it's the phrasing of it, I don't know. So I'd come up with this riff, sit in the studio for getting really frustrated, and I came up with this thing, and I thought, oh, that's quite nice, and I kind of recorded it just as basically as a demo version of the guitar part. and I'd been thinking about this Smokehead stuff, brand values. And then I thought it'd be kind of cool to write a song that it could be about whiskey, but it could also actually be about a person. It could be about a male, it could be about a female, it could be about a partner, it could be about a friend. That friend might not be a person, that friend might be a bottle of Smokehead. Not I'm suggesting anything about myself here. So there was all that kind of stuff. And the first version of it was way too nice, and I'm not particularly melodic, you know. For me, it's more about the performance than trying to be a fancy ass guitar player or particularly great singer. So I let Margaret, my wife, hear it, and she was like, "That's pish." And I was like, "Yeah, kind of." And you know, sometimes you know in your own head that it's not really, but you want to try and push it, and then sometimes it just takes somebody else to tell you that. And yeah, I kind of thought that, but I'm glad that you didn't pander to me and tell me you thought it was all right, because actually I'm agreeing with you. I think it's pish as well. So I was so frustrated, I just started bashing the guitar and trying it in anger, and it kind of came out much better and more like that. Although that was very calm. I don't often play sitting down, but I thought you can't have a Zoom video and have me lurching about the room, and I'd probably break something. So that, I don't know if that gives you a wee bit of an insight into that song.
Yeah, no, definitely, that was great, Dave. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, and it kind of feels like I guess the example there you said is that trust. You know, I don't know, feeling like almost trying to write something in one way and then just letting an emotion take the charge of it in a way, which kind of took it to where it was meant to be. Is that fair to say? Like you'd written it one way and then you said it was pish, and then let the kind of the frustration take it to where it felt more natural.
Yeah, you've just hit the nail on the head. I think that is, and it's not always that obvious when you're on the creative side of it until it happens. But yeah, just that you start forgetting what this preconceived idea of what it should be like, and you just, as long as you've got a little catalyst, because I think if you start off with nothing, with no idea, I mean, maybe if you're putting together loops or EDM stuff, you can mess about and pull notes and MIDI about and come up with stuff, which is great as well, a great way to come up with stuff. But doing this singer-songwriter type of thing, for want of a better term, I think you've got to have an idea about, you know, even just some nonsense words and a bit of an idea, and then just throw the preconceptions aside and just sort of bash it out. And like you say, it captures the feeling, and that is possibly the most important thing. Absolutely. I don't get too hung up on words. I've probably started in the last few years paying a bit more attention. I always thought my songs were just about nothing, but invariably I'll go back to them and listen to them and go, oh, God, that was all about this. So that was, because it must be something that's lurking in the back of your head, that you don't necessarily associate with what's going on to the bit of paper or into the tape machine. And then it kind of, actually there is some reason to this, and it does capture some kind of emotion or message or whatever, for sure.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, that, isn't it? I've had the same experience and heard lots of other songwriters similar things of songs at the time I didn't think much of, and then years later they reflect back on them and it actually feels that there's a lot of wisdom in it, or it means something completely different than you thought it might have meant at the time. And I guess it's probably linked to that similar thing of when you let your instincts and your emotion kind of drive something a little bit, even if you don't consciously make sense of what its meaning is at the time. It's there and you can enjoy it later on, or other people can enjoy it straight away sometimes, I guess. So yeah, that's great, Dave. Thank you. Let's move into section 2. So this is why I ask people to share with us a songwriting tip that might be useful for people just getting started in songwriting, or interested. I'm going to go for the first time.
I mean, there's probably quite a few things that I've probably learned over the years. Don't be too precious about it. Never think it's not good enough, because it doesn't really matter what it is. It's that almost the song itself doesn't matter. It's the fact that you're doing it and trying to do it. And don't throw things away, and don't devalue anything that you've done, and don't worry about it being not good enough or having shortfalls. Don't labour things too much. I mentioned earlier on, you know, about sometimes you get an idea and you're so determined to use it and it becomes like over-laboured and you're trying to push a square peg around a hole. Don't overwork stuff or overcomplicate stuff. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to follow the rules. Just do what you fucking want. At the end of the day, you know, you do this because you do it. If I wanted to fucking make money, I'd either be singing in a, well, no, I wouldn't be singing in a covers band. They'd never let me. I don't know what. I'd either be out playing covers or trying to play covers, or I'd have a proper job. You know, no, this is a proper job. Writing songs is definitely a proper job, and you can make a living doing it, and you can get yourself out of a hole with it as well, emotionally, financially, in every way. So there's a couple of things. Are definitely don't over egg the pudding. Don't labour stuff too much. Don't beat yourself up. Don't worry about it. Don't get self-conscious or hung up on it. Just do it, and at the end of the day, it's a process of doing it, and the fact that you're, even if what you're thinking just now is dong 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 dong, who's to say that it's not creative? Who cares? Put that down. Record yourself. You know, I've got a friend who puts a lot of video on Instagram. He's not really much of a player or a singer or anything, but you know, he's putting stuff down all the time, and it's great. He's just getting out there, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of watching it and listening to it, and inspiration as well. And I'm sure it does him a lot of good, not necessarily just mentally, but not just musically, but probably mentally as well. You know, it's a really, really important thing emotionally and mentally for your well-being, for everybody's well-being. I think it's it's like getting exercise if you can get out and get a walk, even if you're not feeling like it, even if it's a struggle, even to walk from here to a few yards, just get, you know, there are things that you can do in life. And if you can't do something physical, maybe you can do something with a keyboard, with an iPad, with an iPhone, with your voice, with banging spoons together. I don't know. It doesn't matter what you do.
Yeah, that's great, Dave. Yeah, thank you. And it kind of follows on nicely from what we were saying about not having your preconceptions and letting you know, so like not worrying about like, oh, I'm going to try and write a you know, beautiful poetic piece of music. It's like just letting something come out of you, whatever way it is, and
absolutely.
And then like even if at the time you think, oh, this is no good, you know, you can't really judge it yourself. Certainly not straight away, can you? You know, like you were saying, some songs and you know the meaning changes with time and you find more things in them. So yeah, that's great.
Sometimes
Thank
it's
you.
nice to get you get some constructive criticism for some people. Some people just like to slag stuff off. I mean, somebody was telling me recently that there was a song, I put out a song called Brexit Blues last year, which wasn't really pro or anti-Brexit. For the record, I wasn't really up for Brexit, but you know, it doesn't. If somebody is pro-Brexit, in my mind, it doesn't make them a bad person. If we all thought the same thing, then we're a bloody boring place. But the song wasn't really so much pro or anti-Brexit. It was more just an observation of the clusterfuck round about it and all the mixed messages and political crap that was going on, and nobody really knowing. You know. Yeah. Anyway, I'd let somebody hear it, and they were like me. He's a huge Bob Dylan fan. I said, "Yeah, I don't think your stuff gets played on the radio because your lyrics aren't deep enough." And I was like, "Fuck off." I don't think, you know, you hear stuff like about Barbie Girl, you know. It doesn't have to mean anything. Anybody that gets so, I love Bob Dylan as you know, and you know, we were watching something. Was it the Rolling Thunder review? And there's a thing on Netflix. We watched some of it last night, and you know, Dylan's so many times. There's all these books written about Dylan. Big Toad, Robert Shelton. All these people have written all these books about Dylan in search of Dylan means this, Dylan means that, Dylan means the next thing. And Dylan's just going, didn't they really mean anything by any of that? It's everybody else that puts that pressure on and interpretation and trying to second guess something. Yeah. Do it. It doesn't have to. You know.
Yeah.
Anyway, rant over.
Yeah, no, that was great, Dave. Thank you. And that leads in nicely to the third section, I believe, doesn't it? So this is where I've asked my guests to select a song that's meaningful to them, relating to bereavement. And what I do for this section, since I can't play them in the recordings, I'll put the link in the description. So you want to tell us what song you chose, Dave? And then what I advise people to do when they're watching this is they can pause the interview here if you want to and go and listen to the song if you're not familiar with it. Like I said, the link will be in the description. Then you come back and listen to to have a little chat about it. So, what song did you choose for us, Dave?
Well, the song, it's a Bob Dylan song. We've just been talking about Dylan, and it was one of the first Dylan songs that introduced me to Dylan, Mr. Tambourine Man. And I can tell you all about why that's important. And it kind of, it's not so much the topic of it, but it's a lot of the activity round about listening to the song that made me choose it.
Yeah, yes, that's great. Let's. So what's the context around it? I was just listening to it again before I started talking to you. So that, this is a song that's like such a classic, but I hadn't actually listened to it in quite a while. And like we were just saying, it's like every time you go back to it, is you pick out different things or different lyrics stand out to you in different ways. The video I was watching, I think was it Newport? It's a folk festival video, like 1964.
There's a Budokan version. There's there's lots,
Yeah.
But for me, I mean, I lost both my parents, quite a long time ago, and I was an only child, or I'm an only child. I don't know. I'm still an only child, I guess, even though they're both gone. But it was weird. It was quite a late baby. My dad was 56 when I was born, so we'd go out and people would say, did you beat your grandpa? And I'm like, he's my dad. But he was young for his age, and he was born in 1908. He'd done a whole things like got the world's first collapsible canoe and canoed up the Rhine with his pal, a guy called Hefty Elmer. What a name, Hefty Elmer. I never write a song about him. And then he did things like riding across the Great Hungarian Plain, and he went to Morocco in the 1920s and dressed up as a local and pretended to be a tour guide in the mountains, and just all sorts of weird ass stuff that he did. Of course, when he was alive, I was like a teenager, not interested in any of that. And as is always the case, or almost always the case, especially if there's a big generation gap. Generation gap seems to have shrunk an awful lot in the last 20 or 30 years. But when I was a kid, there was a big generation gap. And so I kind of poo-pooed all the things. And it really wasn't until after he'd gone that I realized, actually, shit, that was quite something, And there were lots of these things. So I ended up writing a song about that, which has nothing to do with Mr. Tambourine Man. But it was a song called 1923 that so far has only been in a live album. Anyway, back to Mr. Tambourine Man.
Is that song available on your website, the 1923?
It's on the Live at Memorial Hall album. I think that's maybe the only place it is so far. I don't think it's on any videos, but it might be it'll probably be on the next album, next studio album.
Cool.
Mr. Tambourine Man. So by the time I'm listening to Dylan, I just started playing guitar. I'd be 19 maybe. So my dad would be in 75. Is that right? 90. Yeah, but he's 75. And he played guitar a little bit. But again, I undervalued what he did. He only played a few chords, and he did this kind of dum, chick, chick, dum, chick, chick, dum. And he had huge, big fingers that seemed to stop all the strings at once. And again, I was like, but as I got into playing guitar myself, latterly and listened to stuff like Bob Dylan, we kind of bonded over it a little bit. And my mum was quite a lot younger than my dad, but somehow she'd missed rock and roll somehow, and missed everything to do with pop music and pop culture and basically teenagers. But so she'd always be telling me, be quiet, turn that down. But whereas my dad, by this time, we got a little bit closer mentally, and he would come into my bedroom and sometimes listen to stuff. And the song that really, really kind of brought him in and got us talking to each other about music, and him showing me things on guitar and me appreciating him, was Mr. Tambourine Man, or just as Tambourine Man as he called it. And he began to love that song, but it was more that song was such a catalyst that every time I hear it, I picture him coming into my bedroom, asking me what it was. We're sitting down, we're talking about it, and like a whole world opening up. And that's the way I like to remember him.
Oh, that's beautiful, Dave. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's so interesting that those songs that just take, there's just so many memories within them of the times, especially those early memories when you first got to know it.
Because I mean, when I was starting to think about these songs, I started off thinking of songs that, things like Seasons in the Sun and things like that immediately spring to mind. But I thought it's not really a song so much about bereavement. When I got the idea in my head from you that it didn't have to be about bereavement, but it just how you would associate it with memories and bereavement and stuff, and that's it. And of course, when he died, not long after that, actually, that song actually really, and these memories really helped me through that, so double whammy.
Yeah, that's great. What I've been trying to do, example I've been using when I'm trying to explain this to people is the choice between, it might be a song which is specifically about it, and the example I give for that is another Dylan one, the Death Is Not the End. So it could be a song like that, but it also could be like this. And my example for that is the Black Velvet Band, the old Irish song. That was my grandma's favourite song, and I used to always love singing that with her. And so that song just always it's every time I hear that, I'll think about it. I've just got all these memories of singing with my grandma and how much she used to love that song. So yeah, it's nice how it works both ways, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure.
Brilliant. Yeah, well, thanks for joining me, Dave. I really appreciate it. And everyone can. Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you. So people can check you out on all the social media and websites. And you say that they Stick to Your Guns is your new single.
Yep. So
that's out now as well.
It came out last Friday, and the live stream Monday 27th of April, 8 p.m. UK time. I'm all over social media like a rash. Can't help myself. OCD about it.
Good stuff. It's a good skill to have, Dave. Cool. Yeah, thanks a lot for joining me, and thanks everyone for tuning in. I'll be back soon with another episode. Thank you.